Isn't it weird that Knife in the Dark started in Buckland?
Oh yeah, I thought that was weird because most of this book so far has been quite linear, both
Right, right,
temporally and spatially, right?
right, right.
So suddenly, it's we're back in Buckland, back in
Real
Crick
quick,
Hollow.
did
Did,
we
did that
ever,
ever throw you for a loop? I'm sorry.
a
Go ahead.
little bit, but did we ever ascertain what the distance for, like, was it 50 miles, the distance from Buckland to Bree?
Something like that, didn't we?
I think so. Okay. As they prepared to sleep in the inn at Bree,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all of a sudden, so we know it's not like late night. It's just like the beginning of
Okay.
night. Like, so they couldn't have made Bree in the time that, like, even if they go 20 miles an hour, I
Yeah.
guess I could be there in 3 hours, right?
Hmm.
I honestly don't know how, like, really know how, if this has anything to do with anything.
Well, so you're saying how could they be in Buckland and yet they're also kind of
No, no, no. I mean, they're
they're
divided
in
up.
Bree. Hmm?
Yeah, they're divided up, but like
They're
I
not.
wonder if these were the same ring race that ended up in Bree later on that night,
So are
or if it's.
these are not the same Weathertop ring wraiths?
I don't think so. I mean, they could be, but I mean,
Yeah.
the Witch King, like, what do you call it? The Witch King was the stabbed Frodo, and there
If
was
only
like
they
five.
had like different colored helmets, like the Power
I know.
Rangers. You can keep them like, oh, that's the white one and the green one.
It's the pink ring wraith.
it's the
That's my
sassy,
favorite.
it's the sassy girl ring wraith. Anyway, along the lane outside the gate, they stopped, and three black figures entered.
Oh,
So there's three here, and how many we know are in Bree on this night?
there's two in Bree,
Two in
at
Bree,
least, maybe three,
three
right?
here. Oh, and then when they see the Black Riders from Weathertop, there's there's five.
Right. So there's five. So there's two in Bree. There's three here, and I want to say that there's four probably like by Weathertop because
Hmm. But then there would
if
be
you
nine at Weathertop.
no no no
Four
no
and then
not
five.
no, right now because remember they were chasing them and then there was four waiting at the
Okay.
Ford the Ford Vidal. Like we'll find out.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's
Yeah.
unfold.
Okay.
If only
All
we
right.
had like
So
a book or something like that in front
right.
of us. So
Right. Okay. So it's odd that this chapter starts by jumping back here to this information or this happening at Crick Hollow. Um, but it's interesting. What's interesting is that Frodo wakes up with like disturbed dreams, as if he is aware that this is happening. In the early night, Frodo woke up from a deep sleep suddenly, as if some sound of presence had disturbed him. So just when there's like fear, fire, awake in Buckland, there's a presence disturbing him. So I don't know if that's almost an intuitive connection with like danger is afoot, and he's almost connected, like almost like he's a palantir, or he has some kind of sight that gives him a power that gives him sight into some distance or whatever. Um, I mean, I don't. You don't have to read it that way. You could just say
no, no, yeah,
he has a
because like
premonition of the danger that he's about to encounter.
you know what, the way that I read it, right, um, is that something's going on in the other rooms because like
Mm,
Strider is alert. You know what I'm talking about? Like
right.
so, like why? Like so, I never put that together because like if you look at you saw that Strider was sitting alert in his chair. So this is probably when they were breaking into the room, like whoever, like
Yeah.
we're assuming it's Fernie
But
and
if we think it's Fernie, then why would Frodo have that kind of psychic link with Fernie? I thought it was more interesting for him to have. I mean, just because it starts in Crick Hollow and then it kind of weaves the present, or the present location being Bree,
Right.
back into the narrative, and it shows Frodo is kind of disturbed by something, and what would he be disturbed by? But this dream that, I don't know. It just seemed like as
Well, I
if
mean,
he was
but
bothered
the
by
next,
events from
but
far
here's the
away.
thing, though. Here's the thing. Look at the very next paragraph.
Hmm. Frodo
So
soon went to sleep again, but his dreams were again troubled with the noise of wind and of galloping hoofs.
right,
So
but
those sound like the Buckland hoofs.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
that,
right, right. So okay, yeah.
so
So
he was
galloping hoofs. That's that.
right, right. I
Fernie's
mean, so
not
that
Fernie's
so
not
right,
riding a horse.
right. That can
Yeah.
sort of confirms right there. But like, why would they break into the house of Crick Hollow and realize that the ring's not there when they've got pretty much confirmation that Frodo disappeared and they're pretty sure that the ring is now in Bree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't have an iPhone.
They don't. Well, that's what
But
I'm saying. But they could have had like like
telekinesis.
yeah like Escape from
Right.
Witch Mountain like powers where like they
Well, the ones that are in Crick Hollow are like bringing up the rear, and they're maybe they're just the dumb ones. They're like 2 days behind.
yeah
They're not up to speed. They haven't gotten the memo that, that the ring
I
was
know.
long gone from Buckland,
Yeah
right?
yeah
And they're like, "Hello, any rings in here?
yeah yeah
Sorry,
yeah. They were probably like again they were probably like just covering their bases like oh just in case they left
just
the
in case
ring
they
and
dropped the ring while they were here a few days ago."
yeah
I guess what I'm saying is, in this chapter, Tolkien's starting to describe, because of this link between the galloping hooves and Frodo's dream, he's starting to link himself psychically to the ring wraiths.
right. But I
You
think
know what I
that's
mean? And the fact
again
that he's the one dreaming of the ring wraiths, and not, let's say, Sam or something. It's by virtue of his being the ring bearer that he's dreaming of
right
these rings. Chapter 5, at the very end, he goes to bed. Eventually, he fell
right
into a
right
vague dream in which he seemed to be looking out of a high window over a dark sea of tangled trees. Down among the roots, there was the sound of creatures crawling and snuffling. He felt sure they would smell him out sooner or later.
hmm.
So it's obviously a very generic dream. We might have all had dreams like this, but like the idea that he's being looked for, that he's being not only looked
Right
for but smelled for. And later in this chapter, Knife in the Dark, like that, they describe how the ring wraiths aren't really necessarily seeing as much as they are sensing, smelling. Like
yeah
there's
yeah
other senses besides sight. So the ring wraiths might be blind. Their horses can see, but they
right
themselves are kind of blind. So like here, even back in before they even leave the Shire, he's having dreams where he's being hunted and looked for and smelled for.
like I mean, obviously he's having dreams that he's connected with a ring race and
Right.
he's like seeing some kind of something. But what I guess I'm trying to figure out is like it's giving a hint at the power of the ring, right?
Yeah.
But um, how really like if you took those dreams out, would it have changed the story at all? You know what I'm saying?
Well, not in any drastic way, but I
Right,
guess what I'm getting at is, I think Tolkien. I think sometimes when you're building, excuse me, when you're writing a long narrative and a novel, um, you just start to suggest things, and you can just drop little hints. So that
right,
first
right.
dream where he's just like he's he's being smelled for by creatures under the roots or something. It's it's just a subtle hint. It doesn't really what
Spelled for or but for?
he's what
But for?
but for.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Do you want to know what a butt for? What's a butt
Oh,
for?
I was gonna
Sorry.
phrase differently. What's a butt for? What is a butt for? What about when Sam throws the apple? So Bob and Nob give him apples,
Right.
and he throws one of them at Bill Ferny.
I thought that was a good kind of. I always enjoyed that as a kid because it's kind of like, oh, he got Bill Ferny, and yada yada yada.
Right, but as an adult, you realize you shouldn't be throwing apples at people.
Right.
Yeah, no, I guess reading it this time. It struck me like, was the apple deserved? Because they had just transacted with him for the pony, right? Like, didn't they just buy this pony from him?
Right, but he ripped him off on the pony. Apparently,
Yeah. Is that
Butterbur
why?
was mad.
Is that why Sam threw the apple at him? I mean, why exactly was the apple thrown?
Well, because Bill Ferny deserved to have the apple thrown at him. But yeah,
Because he's
you
just that
do
kind of
bring,
guy. It's like,
you do bring up an interesting point that they knew that, like, they suspected Fernie. They had no real proof.
so knowing then that Sam has those apples, how do you explain this? Well, this is from Peter Jackson. You know Peter Jackson? He did this great Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
Watch this.
I think he knows about second breakfast, Pip. What about Elevensies? Luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, supper. He knows about them, doesn't he?
I wouldn't count on it.
Oh,
He didn't get hit though.
no. Oh, what's
Oh,
that?
there it is.
But here's the thing though. Why does Strider have the apples? See, we didn't get
Oh.
there's no scene where Sam throws an apple at Bill Ferny in this movie, right?
No, because I don't think there was a Bill Ferny. Like, I mean, there was somebody who was Bill Ferny, but the whole chapter, this whole scene, this whole Bree, like, again, like it was played out way differently in the movie than
Right.
it did,
Right. So, but I guess it's just weird. Number one is like that was basically Sam throwing the apple at Bill Ferny. Now
Right,
you have
right.
Aragorn throwing the apple and hitting Pippin on the head, right? But the big question is, these are Sam's apples, apparently, because apparently, like, Aragorn is just stocked with apples that he keeps throwing at people.
Right.
But there's Sam back
No,
there. Is Aragorn
yeah,
throwing those apples? So how did Aragorn get Bob and Nob's bucket of apples from Sam?
I think you're overthinking this whole thing because, like,
So here they are in the Midgewater. So one thing I noticed from when I was reading it this time is back when I read it, like back when I was a kid, the Midgewater seemed to take forever. But in this, it was just reading it now. I was like, oh, it's just a few paragraphs.
yeah, it was like, I think again because you're so engrossed in when you're a kid, you're so engrossed in like in this whole, you know, visualization in your head. It's like, yeah, because it seemed like the Midgewater took forever.
I know, me too. I was like, with the Neekbreakers, and I just pictured, because I don't like, mosquitoes or bugs, and
Yeah.
I just picture them being like plagued by these
was a
insects, and
nightmare.
I don't like humidity, and they're just going through the Midgewater, and I was like, oh crap, the Midgewater. And maybe what happened was like I put the book down because I didn't like being in the Midgewater, and then maybe I waited a week before I picked it back up again.
It could have been
And
too,
that made
man.
me feel like I was in this interminable Midgewater, but it
Right.
actually is just, it goes really fast.
Yeah, it could be though too. It's like because I always felt like they were in the Midgewater for like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
You know?
that's exactly.
But it's like
And was
like
I mean, am I getting that confused with like
no.
the dead marshes or something, or some other marsh?
Maybe I don't know.
'Cause,
Like I
like,
said, but if you were like again, like if you were to ask me, you know, last year, like how long were they in the Midgewater? It's like probably a month.
that's exactly my point. Like, I was like reading this, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought they were like lost in the Midgewater for weeks and they almost starved to death.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's clearly not. It's clearly not what happened. They're talking about should they make a fire? Can the writers see? Asked Mary. I mean, they seem usually to have used their noses rather than their eyes. and at all times they smell the blood of living things.
This goes further to my point that in the films, Ringwraiths attacked the room that Frodo and Sam, like the hobbits were in,
Mm-hmm.
right? They would have sensed some kind of presence in there. They would
Right.
have smelled blood. They would have been like, no, there's nothing in
sense
there.
that there's
You know?
no living warm-blooded creature in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
You
You're
know,
right.
so yeah. So,
So
yeah,
it's
like I said,
probably just Fernie. So it says there's no shelter or defense. Fire shall serve for both. So they're going to build a fire, right? Sauron can put fire to evil uses as he can with all things, but these riders do not love it and fear those who wield it. Fire is our friend in the wilderness. So fire is our friend in the wilderness. How do you explain this?
What are you doing?
Tomatoes, sausages, nice crispy bacon.
We saved some for you, Mr. Frodo. Put it out, you fools! Put it out! That's nice.
Jerk.
Right.
Doesn't even in this scene, Aragorn has a flaming brand in order to fight them. So the idea that they're averse to flame is already in the scene, but for some reason Frodo thinks this tiny little fire is going to bring them towards them.
Right. I think dumbass shouting like, "What are you doing?" It's like,
right. Put it out! Oh my god!
Put it out. But you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
Like, oh, those sound like voices up there, because, like, you know, like you didn't hear the horses when they were cooking their tomatoes and crispy bacon, but then Frodo shouts, you know, kind of jacks everything up.
Right. So and then they come to this area where there's no fire.
Right.
And now they're just surrounded by darkness. I mean, cinematographically, it probably works. Like, ooh, it's dark and scary, and there's no fire to protect them. But yeah, in the book, the fire was their protection.
Yeah,
and in the book, obviously, they're standing with their backs to the fire, holding fire. Whereas here, there's no fire at all, and they're all four little hobbits with their little swords drawn.
Right.
And that's not going to get. So.
Yes, I'm looking at this, like, watching intently. How many, there's 5 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 by the top.
Hold on. Yeah, I guess.
Count the swords. How about you? The Black Knight always triumphs. We're nitpicking on this whole Peter Jackson thing, because, like, again, he made some creative choices that I'm like, all right, cool. Oh, that's fine. But yeah, maybe they needed an action sequence, you know, like in the book, like, we need to, like, you know,
like
rather than kind of an intellectual exercise.
Yeah, it's not intellectual, but the thing that I also noticed is that when Frodo puts the ring on, like, he sees them. That's right. Like, he sees them more than just black shadows. Yeah. Like, they don't see him any different from what we can tell. Like all this misty, wispy, like ghost-like apparition type things that the Ringwraiths become is Frodo. The effect of Frodo wearing the ring on Frodo's sight.
Yeah.
But
you know how it makes sense in the movies, because I mean, how are you really going to, you know, show them smelling?
No. But the question I always wondered is, if Frodo puts the ring on, and actually Tolkien discusses this, but I'm just wondering from your perspective, if Frodo puts the ring on here, doesn't he then become the Lord of the Rings, and can't he command these creatures? Why can't he just?
Yes, but who was, say, like Pippin or Frodo asked him, and again, this is in later chapters, like, when I put the ring on, why couldn't I control the ring race? Like, well, did you try? You know what I'm saying? Like, again, like we've discussed, I mean, you've got to kind of have the will to dominate, and that's kind of like the ring's power.
But there is this line from Tolkien's letters.
All right.
And it actually discusses this exact thing. It says, what would have happened if Frodo had claimed the ring, like, when he was about to destroy the ring, because he actually claims it at the end before
Right.
Gollum falls into Mount Doom. But here he's not claiming it; he's just putting it on out of fear. The situation was now different. Now being in at Mount Doom was now different to that under Weathertop, where Frodo acted merely in fear and wished only to use in vain the ring's subsidiary power of conferring invisibility. He had grown since then. Would they have been immune from its power if he claimed it as an instrument of command and domination? So just like you said, you have to want to command and dominate. You can't just put
Yeah.
the ring on and suddenly you're conferred with the ability to command and dominate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. We learned something today.
Yeah, we did. We actually learned something today.
Like, you can't dominate the ring, and the ring race would have been like, no.
No. Talk to the hand.
You're not the boss of me. You're not my real dad.
Oh yeah, that'd be funny.
Sauron
Put that
told me
away.
that. Sauron told me that he's the real ring Lord of the Rings, and we're just gonna take it from you and take it to Sauron.
Yeah, we could do ring wraiths with Napoleon Dynamite voice.
Yeah, I know. Sauron wanted me because I was pretty good with a bow staff.